And then others say, oh, it doesn't hurt. In the 1960s and early 70s, we heard, oh, it's good, and let people experiment. And we've seen the results of living together outside of marriage, and we've seen what the, quote, sexual revolution has done to a generation of people. It's messed up minds, children, and so forth. We, as Christians, are God's called out people. One of the words used to describe Christians is the word sanctified, set apart for the service of God. My friends, we're not set apart for the service of God when we engage in that which is sinful. We are saints. We're saints. Some religious groups take certain people and they saint them. When we're baptized, we become a saint. We're set apart. We're sanctified for the service of God. And we don't see how close we can come. We abhor that which is evil, God says, Romans 12 and verse 9. We abstain from all appearance of evil. And again, we mentioned this as we began, we do not conform to the world. We read Romans chapter 12 and verse 2 even earlier. Very quickly. Basic Bible education. Sin spots. We as Christians are to keep ourselves unspotted from the world. Now, I want you to think with me. In Ephesians chapter 5, we find verses 25 through 29 that the church is described as a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing. We talk about often, the bride, when she comes down the aisle in a beautiful white dress, why she wouldn't come down with big dirty spots of mud or filth on her dress. That dress signifies purity and cleanliness. And how interesting that God uses this as a parallel. Husband, wife, the bride with the church. And as Christians, as members of the church, as what we make up the church, we're to keep ourselves unspotted. We're to keep ourselves pure. That's what he's talking about here. You see, when we ask the question, should a Christian dance? We must not only not have a part in it, but we must condemn sin for what it is. We need to quit trying to be politically correct. And more importantly, parents, and I say this to you if you've been defending this, we need to stop trying to be like the world. Oh, but little Susie, little Johnny, little Jeff, whoever, they need to do what their friends do. Why? If their friends have no interest in spiritual things and their interest is not heaven, why do they need to do what their friends are doing? We love them, then we want them to do what God says. We want them to do what's right, not what everybody else is doing. Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. But what are we supposed to do? Reprove them. Point out the error. It's time we stand. We don't have time. I've got just a few things here. And it's interesting to read quotations. If you're interested, I've got several pages, actually, that I could show you. Arthur Murray, well known. The difference between wrestling and dancing is that in wrestling, some holes are barred. Profound from a great dancer, isn't it? Former director of the FBI, most juvenile crime had its inception in the dance hall. The director of a home for girls, 7 out of 10 girls received fail how? Through dancing. The book from the ballroom to hell. 163 out of 200 girls who were interviewed said their downfall morally began on the dance floor. There's, again, a number of them. This was a chief of police for New York City several years ago. 75% of the abandoned girls in New York City were ruined by dancing. 7.5 out of 10. 75 out of 100. 750 out of 1,000. And this law enforcement official said it was because of dancing. Now, these quotes that I've just read, not one of these people is a New Testament Christian. See, oftentimes when this subject comes up, people say, oh, that's just you preachers. No. J. Edgar Hoover was not a New Testament Christian. This police chief in New York City was not a Christian. And I could go on and tell you others. Former supervisor of the Dancing Academy of Los Angeles. He was the former president of the Dancing Masters Association. No woman can waltz well and waltz virtuously. These are people in the profession themselves. This is too long to read. He makes a point, though, and again, this is not a New Testament Christian. He says the person who defends it and says that they can survive without mental, moral, or physical pollution, he says, you know the teller lies. If you can believe youth is the same after this experience as before, then God help your child or your charge, for you are not mentally fit for your responsibility. Not a preacher. No, not a New Testament Christian. Here's the bottom line. This is from the devil. The bottom line. God did not originate this outside of the marriage relationship.